Greetings, everybody. I hope that you are well on this Wednesday evening. I am back with another session of hashtag Gather to Grow here on Food from Zanzi's Instagram Live. Tonight's topic specifically was a request by one of the participants that were in the live a few weeks ago. Hi, Sia. How are you?
I'm good, and you?
It's so great to have you with me. I was just mentioning that the topic that we're focusing on tonight was a suggestion from a farmer who wanted to know more on crop rotation. So I'm really, really excited to be able to share insights with this person specifically and just the, farming community as a whole. And in the interest of time, while we get Lorata to also join us,
Good evening, George.
Rato.
And yeah, how are you?
we are doing really well. We are doing really well. I was just saying to him that I'd like to go through a round of introductions. And I was saying to Sia that he is actually a BCom accountant. And he went from that field to farming,
Bro,
which all of my cousins, they went into the financial field and they work so hard. But I don't know what's worse, the financial field or farming.
it depends what you love, I think. For me, I enjoy farming more than being at the office and whatnot. I grew up liking numbers, which I'm using now with my farm. I'm glad I did become accountant because I don't have to do anything. I don't have to hire accountants and whatnot. I do everything on my own. Yeah, that's a good part about it, but I love farming.
I can see it. I can see it in that power pose you do. You're like, yes, this is my farm. I love it. I love it. I absolutely love it. So you're a crop farmer and you're based in
Uh-huh.
Bishu and you've been farming since 2017. I want to know
Yes.
more about that in a little bit, but I'm going to now ask Lerata just to introduce herself, tell us more about her business. Since I met her, she's changed and, grown in this sector. So I actually want to know, I'm excited to know what she's doing currently because I think you're now Takatso Agricultural Solutions, also based in Gauteng. You come from a farming family, right?
So I have diversified, as you've said. So I've been part of the industry for 18 years. I grew up basically in the industry. So I'm a second generation farmer. And then I went to I went to study crops as well. I went to university and I got to do my honors as well. I got to change. I actually wanted to be an advocate. So I just decided, since I'm at the University of the Free State and it's a good agricultural school, let me just take the opportunity and change my degree. So that's what I did. And then I've been a part of the industry, as I said, for those many years. So I do farm as well, but then we do have Takatsu Agricultural Solutions. And that is our consulting division of the business. So we do agronomy services, your training. We've got AgriSETA accredited courses. We do your agri-spatial planning. So when you buy a new farm and you don't know where to put what, we can help you with that. We do infrastructure development on farms as well. And this has really happened because we've been in the industry for so long. We've learned a lot. 18 years of experience, we've got to learn so much. And now we've just turned it into a business. We monetize from it. So that's why I am for now.
That's the most for now. I'm here, but I'm growing. It was so beautiful for me to see your mom at the Food from Zanzi Young Farmers in Daba. I just love it when farming families are there together. When parents come with their little kids and they're all dressed in their farming gear, it just gets me excited.
Yeah, and the
But
nice
yeah,
thing
thank
is,
you
John,
so much.
I got to work with my dad, and then I work with my
Yes.
sister and my mom. So it's literally the whole family involved in the industry. And I think I really enjoy working with everyone with our different personalities. It's absolutely amazing.
I'm sure the pressure is on 100 working with family.
Sure.
120.
But I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. And I want to maybe talk more about it. I mean, there's so many things we can talk about in terms of family farming structures and business. I think that can be like a whole session on its own. So thank you so much. And I'll definitely invite you back for that, Lorato. Like I mentioned, the topic for today was suggested by one of our viewers. So one of the people who regularly joins Gather to Grow, they were like, hey, we'd really like to know more about crop rotation. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to try and set this one up. We have discussed it before, but I say we can never know enough about a certain topic, and there's always certain insights that people might give differently to what other experiences are from other farmers. So maybe I'll just start with a basic introduction. I think I'm going to go with you, Lerato. Just like, what is the concept of, can you explain us the basic concept of crop rotation and the importance of that when it comes to sustainable agricultural practices?
Crop rotation is basically you changing the type of crop that you grow on a specific land, right? So if you, for example, are growing on a 5-hectare, you cannot plant the same crop each and every time. So why crop rotation is important is that it helps with the soil health. You must remember that with insects and with weeds, they're very opportunistic. So you need to confuse the enemy if you were, you know. So what you would do, you need to change the crop so that the soil health can also stay good. With you then planting the same thing all the time, it then decreases the soil health, right? And then now it requires you to now use synthetic fertilizers to up your soil. So now that's money again, you know. So it's just you basically changing your crop every time. So you cannot repeat the same crop twice. You need to then plant something different. So I just think all in all, basically that is what crop rotation is.
Thanks, Lerato. And then, Sia, just from your side, what are the benefits then of implementing this practice? And maybe you can just speak specifically to what you do on your farm.
Yeah, there's so many benefits of using crop rotation. Out of many, I'll just mention 4 or 5 that I use. The benefit number 1, it's to control the pests. It disrupts their cycle. For example, there are pests which we call specialized, which like a special kind of veg or whatever. For example, you got aphids which love cabbages. So if you continue on planting cabbages on an ongoing cycles, you are definitely going to get a problem with those pests. Secondly, disease control. Same with the pests. There are diseases that like a certain type of crops. But for that one, you need to look up, after this live, just go and look up pathogens. Pathogens are what makes the plants go have viruses and diseases. So just look that up. So it's pest control, virus control, and then balancing the nutrients on the soil. You get, you have to first start with what do you want to achieve at the end of the day while doing this crop rotation. I mentioned if you have diseases and pests, you can use that. Also, if you want to impact the nutrients on your soil, you can also do that. Now, with that, you get crop families like your legumes, you get your cereal. With those two, the legumes add on nitrogen on the soil, and then the cereal uses the nitrogen. So you can rotate those two just to benefit the soil when it comes to nitrogen. Thirdly, also the soil structure. The soil structure is affected by the crop's roots, firstly, and also the type of the veg that you plant in. For example, my carrots and beetroots, my soil is kind of compact. So when I plant the rooting veggies, they kind of decompact the soil. So that's another benefit. Also, to prevent soil erosion, you can interchange on crops. There's so many, but I just mentioned 5 out of those. So you can pick and choose which one you want to use. But back on what the reason you want to combat on your field. That's where you should start, and then you'll know what crop to use.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for that. And then we advertised this session on our social media, and one of the other farmers that I'm in contact with, Ludwe Majiza, he's a permaculturalist in the Eastern Cape, yeah. So Ludwe was also just commenting, he sent me a voice note and he asked me specifically, the difference between, subsistence production and if you're producing on like a bigger scale for business. Is there a difference when it comes to those two? Lerato, maybe you want to take this one. Sia, you're also welcome to comment.
With your crop rotation, I think it's very important to plant something that sells, you know. You don't want to waste your time planting a crop that you're not going to be able to market. So that's one thing you then need to look at. The other thing you need to look at is, as Sia did mention, the families that crops come from. Once you understand the various crop families, you will then understand that you can't repeat, you know, because some crops you will find there's 2 different crops in one family, but then you didn't know. When doing a crop rotation, is to try and get crops that grow in a similar time frame, right? So what I mean by that, if your cabbage takes 90 days, and just for example, I'm making an example, beans take 90 days, you would want to rotate them with one another so that you don't find your growing program overlapping each other, you know. So I think those are some of the very important things that you need to look at. Something that's marketable, something that can also benefit your soil. Sia did mention soil erosion, you know, so it's also these things that you look at, the crop choice that you're going to choose. You need to look at the area that you are in. You need to look at the whether this crop needs to be irrigated. Is it a dryland crop? You need to look at your topography. There's all these little things that need to be taken into consideration when choosing a proper system for your crop rotation.
Thanks, Lerato. Sia, any comments from your side? Do you keep like a meticulous schedule in that way?
Yes, I kind of do the same thing. For me, each and every year, I have a plan for the whole year, what my cycle is going to be, what are my focus crops, then I go down from there. I start from planning the whole year and then decide which crops I'm going to rotate on what fields and whatnot. So it starts from family, the soil structure, the nutrients, and all of that, keeping them in mind.
We spoke about, you know, the improvement of soil health and fertility over time, but maybe we can just talk about the strategies and also the various factors that kind of influence it, climate and soil type. Is that also something to consider?
There are so many strategies. As I said before, you just need to know what you want to achieve out of rotating your crops. That is number one. That's your basis of doing this. And then secondly, there are so many factors that are out of your control, so that you have to work around with. You mentioned climate. There are crops which, for example, during heat seasons, there are crops which manage under that. Winter crops, you got those. So you have to plan according to your situation or your environment. For example, the soil type also is super important. I had a problem when I started with our farm. We had our soil format was a little bit clay, so we had to plan ahead what crops will affect the soil to make it a little bit less compact. And so we started with the rooting veg, and then with the other crops that have the crops that have longer roots. Agronomist. So
Can you help with that?
I'm a YouTube farmer, so for all the concepts I'll go to Lerato. But you just have to use whatever you have. Just plan ahead, depending on what are your constraints. Just work around them. Just know why you're doing this crop. Routine. Yeah.
For sure. Lerato, any comments? I mean, specifically around the soil type, and then also just Sia's comment of kind of assessing the type of soil you have and making that part of your plan when it comes to your crop rotation strategy.
I think it's very important. I mean, that's the first thing you do on a farm, is to understand the soil type. And that will then guide you in your crop choice. You must remember, with sandy soils, water runs quicker, as opposed to your clay soils that hold water more. So you need to understand the crop that you then choose. Is this crop going to, can it thrive in conditions of not having too much water, or will it be able to withstand having water sit in the soil? So once you've understood that, I mean, there's so many people, and I really, really love our industry, because with all your seed producers and seed sellers, there are so many people there who can help. And I'm not sure if people know that, but you can give them a call, and they usually refer you to their horticulturist or their agronomist, and this person, like obviously you do your soil test, then you send them your soil results, and they then are able to see your soil type and then advise you accordingly. So you don't just have to suck by thumb and say, today I'm doing onions, tomorrow I'm doing potatoes. There is help out there, you know. So soil fertility and soil type, I think that definitely does play a role in your rotation cycle.
And then a question from Andile Matukane, one of my other favorite farmers. She's asking, how often does one need to do crop rotation in a year, especially for those crops that take 3 months from planting to harvesting? Good question. Anyone want to take this?
I can take it. For me, for the short-term crops, I push it to two cycles and then change it. Some people might do differently, but I think for me, I can push it to 2 cycles and then rotate after 2 cycles. I manage my crop rotation within like a year. I start from a year and then onwards. Lerato?
So, as I said, Dawn, you would want to rotate with a crop that has a similar growing period to your main crop, the one that's your main crop. So let's say, for example, you've got a 5-hectare property, and on 1 hectare, you're going to plant cabbage. The next hectare, you're going to plant your beans. It will be a great way to rotate in that way so that you don't run out of the particular product that you specialize in, right? So if you were to plant cabbage here on hectare 1 and on hectare 2, you plant beans and you harvest them around the same time, you are then able to plant cabbage on hectare 2 and then just keep the rotation going that way, whether it's a 3-crop or 2-crop or 4-crop rotation, because there are different types of rotations. And then you are able to supply the market with that particular product or those products for the whole year. So I think that's why I do emphasize that you do choose a crop that has a similar growth time to the one that you deem your main line.
And also, just to expand on what Lerato just mentioned, there are 2-crop rotation. On the strategies, there's 2-crop rotation, 3, and then 4. Simply, those are, if you're dealing with 2-field rotation, it's just 2 crops. If it's 3 crops. If it's 4, you can expand on that. But on the 2-field rotation, the focus, when it comes to me, it's the nitrogen transmission. So I plant crops which deplete nitrogen and then rotate them with the plants which add nitrogen. And then you get the 3-field rotation. You just add on another crop on those 2, which I mostly add the root crops, which help the soil structure. And then the 4th one, you can just keep on adding. Just again, going back to the first thing I said, you have to know why you're doing this crop rotation. So a little bit of research and a little bit of knowing what you have goes a long way.
Thanks so much for that, Sia. A shout out from Ipeleng saying, hey family, it feels great to be here. Oh, so lovely to have you here. Shout out to Ipeleng. She's a livestock farmer, but you know I love farmers because they're like, look, I do livestock, I listen to crops, I do this, I do that. You have to kind of be everywhere, kind of have
we might
knowledge.
Also end up being animal farmers.
Yeah. Do you want to diversify? You want to diversify. But yeah, thanks so much. I think you've answered so many of my questions that I had in terms of pest management and pest and disease management. You spoke very specifically around that already. You know, how to reduce or minimize the occurrence of pests. I think, Sia, you mentioned specific pests for the cabbage that does occur. Maybe you can give other strategies. Are there other companion plants that one can also kind of work into it? Is that something that also forms part of the crop rotation cycle? Maybe you can just talk about specific, pest or disease resistant crops or other pests. I know, like, for example, with subsistence farming, even backyard, people encourage you to plant, what are those yellow flowers? I can't get to the name of it.
Is it dandelions?
Is it?
Yeah.
No,
I think so.
Dandelion. Yes, the yellow one.
The yellow one says, wow. Okay. Oh no.
The yellow one that everybody's garden has.
Yeah, I think we'll get it. Oh, whoever's listening, please comment so that we're not like embarrassing ourselves here on this live.
But it starts with a D, Dawn. At least I know it starts with a D. So can somebody just help me out with that flower, please?
1 point for that.
Yeah, but maybe if I can just talk about that briefly, some of the other plants and crops that you can possibly plant. And then, Sia, you already mentioned the types of strategies.
Mhm.
Ipeleng's laughing at us. And then, if you're not used to implementing the crop rotation on your farm, how does one kind of start? Is it just automatic? You just decide and you just go with it? Maybe you could just give those basic steps to starting, Lorato.
So, Dawn, if you're not doing crop rotation, I know your fertilizer and your chemical bill is very high, because now you must remember, as the soil health decreases, you then think there's a problem with the soil, which there is. So here you now go and you buy a lot of fertilizer because you want to get your crop grown, right? So that's how I know that your crop rotation, you don't have a crop rotation in place. So what you can start with, I personally love green beans, beans in general. I think they're a great way to bring the nitrogen back into the soil. Nitrogen is one of the most important nutrients in the soil. There is obviously your phosphorus and your potassium, but nitrogen is one of the most important. And once you do this, you will then see that your fertilizer bill decreases, even your chemical bill decreases. As Sia did mention, some aphids. Aphids love vegetables in general. So you will find them in lettuce, you will find them in cabbage. They really strive and they become so resistant. You can buy the same chemical, you can even change your chemicals. They will stick because they love thriving in an environment where they see that you don't want to change your crops, so they will thrive on it. And it becomes an infestation. And to deal with an infestation, Dawn, is not something that you want on your farm. It becomes very expensive. You have to leave the land fallow. There's so many things that you need to put into your land because now you've basically messed it up. So when getting into a crop rotation system, you, like I've been mentioning a couple of times, you just need to understand your market as well. Try to find a market before you do your crop rotation. Get advice as to what crops will work in your area, work with your soil, work with your climate. And then after that, then find the market for it. If you do the normal fresh produce market, then it's okay. They will take your crop. I know green beans does very well throughout the year, and it also then helps with soil nutrition. So it's just all of these things that you just need to. Farming is an ever learning. You learn every day, So there is help out there. I mean, there's people that you can call and just ask to guide you. But it's not a thing that you need to struggle with on your own. You can speak to one of us. You can connect with me on Takato and I can help you. I can help you with that. So yes, John. So I just think those are just the main things that you need to look at.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for that, Lerato. And we're getting lots of help here from our viewers. Ratu is saying daffodils. Yes, I Googled that as well. Marigolds came up. Thank you so much.
Marigolds. Oh, it's not a G, it's an M. Marigolds.
Yeah.
Marigolds.
As long as you know how to use it. That's
yes.
all.
So marigolds, so when we speak on marigolds, they help with aphids. So aphids love going to marigolds. So what farmers usually do, you would plant it on your peripheral of your farm, so against your fence. It looks nice as well. And you must also remember that marigolds can be sold. So the Hindu market, they really do love marigolds because they use it for Diwali. So it's also a flower that can be sold. So there's another market to look at as well. But marigolds, you usually try to plant it a couple of meters away from the affected crop. So that would maybe be on your fence. So I would suggest you plant it on your fence line. And then when September, October comes, when it's Diwali, you then sell it.
So much innovation. I didn't even think of that. I know that there are flower farmers, but I didn't know that there are flower farmers that farm with the marigold. So thank you so much for that one. Green. There's also, AFP Agri saying sunflowers. I love sunflowers. I think it's never a waste to plant it on your farm. That's just because it's so pretty to look at. Green Bin Essay saying hello everyone. Greenburn Essay, I miss you guys. I haven't spoken to you in a while. We should connect. Please, please, please. I want to do more, conversations with you guys. So please come through. And then Sock saying crop rotation is quite complex. Is a quite complex exercise, but very beneficial. One needs to be considerate of the end result, like Lerato mentioned, the financial impact that comes with it. Yeah, let's talk for a moment of the financial impact. Maybe Sia, you can talk about what it takes for you. I'm going to you as the finance guy. Financial implications of changing over or implementing it. Please, Sia, let's go.
I'll just go back to what happened to me 2 years ago. What I usually do when I go back to the villages where I started farming, I always see them planting maize, corn, over and over and over, like repeatedly, year in, year out. So with our family field, I suggested we planted beans just for the nitrogen thingy. And then it was the only field which had beans at that time. Guess what happened? We were the only ones selling beans during that time. So you know what that means. It was a super healthy money in for us. So it really helps to rotate crops because you save money. Number one, you can get a market that you didn't expect to get, because I never planted beans and peas before, but now I would say they are my third best crops currently, just because we're trying to rotate the crops on the fields. So it works out super fine. So from that, I started implementing it. It helps a lot. I also try to plant what other farmers are not planting. So if, let's say, back to maize and corn, if they're planting maize or corn, I would plant beans on the same field that I will plant corn the next cycle. So money-wise, you just have to use your head around it. And also, I'm not sorry. And also, I'm not using much pesticides or fungicides. I just plant and then the soil just leaves on it. Fertilizers, the last time I used the only fertilizer I use is cow manure. Anything else I don't use on my open fields anymore because of the crop rotation, because the soil is always fertile.
Beautiful. And then a question from Atau saying, what is your favorite or first base crop, first and second? And then Jerome also saying, Awe Don. Awe Jerome, nice to chat, nice to see you in the space. Yeah, what's your first and second favorite? You just mentioned green bean, but what do you usually produce?
My first is green peppers. Oh, bell peppers, just in general. Your full rainbow. And my second is tomato.
Okay.
Then my first beans. That is based on the money which comes in.
Okay.
And also the work that you put in. For peppers, I think they are easily grown, especially in tunnels. With tomatoes also, the only thing you have to do repeatedly is just pruning and trellising. Other than that, it's just fruiting all over.
Thanks so much, Sia. And then maybe a question for you, Lerato, from AFP Agri. I hope I'm saying that right. One has to consider harvesting methods when you choose the rotational crop. Comments on that one?
Yeah, so I actually forgot to touch on that, but that is also something you need to consider. You're not gonna now plant something that needs a combine harvester or something that needs expensive machinery. If it's something that can be handpicked, I think you should then look at that. You should also look at the labor intensity as well. Now that we're speaking about the harvesting, there are certain crops where you will find yourself in a square meter and you'll spend so much time harvesting and you just don't have the financial, you can't afford that, you know. So when choosing your crop rotation, the sort of harvesting that's needed, as well as the labor intensity, I think that's another two things that needs to be looked at. So yes, I do agree with who was that, AFP Agri? Yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much. Sia, how do you do it? What is your method? And also in terms of labor, paying for labor, and do you use any smart technology? I mean, I don't know what kind of tech there is that you're using.
I grow in tunnels and also on open land. That you have to use two different strategies for that. For example, inside a tunnel, you can grow, let's say, peppers. Okay, let's say you can grow tomatoes the whole year. it won't have much effect as when you're growing on the soil, because we use grow bags. With the grow bags, every cycle, it's either you change them or you recycle them. So what we do is, if I planted tomatoes in this tunnel, I'll just, when the cycle is over, let's say I want to plant peppers now, I'll just move from which tunnel to plant on, just to avoid using the same grow bag. But when you like on open land, it's the same soil, it's the same place, so you have to be calculative when it comes to that. So it's different in the tunnel and outside based on the grow medium that you use. I wouldn't say much technology that I use inside the tunnel. It's same labor intensive, but not as much as outside, because even growing the crops is not the same as growing outside. For example, with tomatoes, we keep one stem so that inside the tunnel so that it grows up, and outside we can keep it bushy. So that can come with different diseases and pests because of the airflow and moisture and all of that. So you just have to use different strategies for different areas.
Interesting to kind of your comparison between, tunnel farming and under tunnels and also just in open land, and just that kind of reflection on both aspects, the benefits and challenges when it comes to producing on both sides. Why do you choose to do that? Why not just focus on tunnel farming?
With our tunnel farming, we use a method called hydroponics, and it's mainly based on synthetic fertilizers and all of that. If you want to go organic, it's gonna go deeper in your pocket. So I love organic on the open land, and then I use synthetic fertilizers and pesticides when it comes to the tunnel. But when it comes to the yields, it's much more inside the tunnel, because now even the nutrients that you feed in, you know what you want to feed your plants. So you give it exactly what it needs. And outside, you have so many constraints to perfectly feed your plant. And also you can control the climate inside, which is your temperature, humidity, and all of that, which give you more yields because it's much more warmer inside. For example, during winter, my tomato yield will be higher than people who grow outside. I can assure you that. Lerato? Do you have anything to say?
I like how he double checks with me, like, Lerato, can you just
Exactly.
From now on, I'm going to use Lerato as my agronomist. So thank you, Don. Thank you, Don.
I charge per hour, so you are more than welcome.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay. Maybe before you comment, Sims in Glovo's just asking, are there any volunteer work for youth? Yeah, it depends. There's a lot of opportunities. There are many opportunities for young people in agriculture. I'm not sure if these farmers take on, young people on their farming practice. They can respond to that. But if you go to Food from Zante, we have an entire agri-careers platform that will definitely give you more opportunities. Today, actually, the team was out in Grabouw, here in the Western Cape, showcasing the various careers. So please do go and visit Food from Zanzi's Agri-Careers platform. That's www.agricareers.co.za. Molloy asking, are there any implications from leasing municipal land on securing finance? Interesting enough, we did this topic last month. So we focused on leasing communal land and the implications of that, and also just a general topic on leasing land. So if you DM me, Dawn Numdu, I can send you the links for that. But if you also scroll down on Food from Zanzi's Instagram, one of these Gather to Grow sessions was specifically focused on leasing land and how that process works and what are the implications when it comes to securing finance. So you can go back and listen to that. Also go to Food from Zanzi's YouTube channel for more. And I think there's an article that was published. I must just make double sure, but DM me, Dawn Numdu, DM Food from Zanzi. We've done this topic and it was actually a really nice one. And I want to, talk more on it later in the year. Okay. Ngovo also asking, are the bug or big bug chemicals good for the plants? I'm assuming that's like for pesticides. Pesticides, yeah. Lerato, maybe you want to take this one and also comment on Sia's take when it comes to financing, maybe. I think that was one of the questions. Yeah, thanks.
Pesticides and chemicals they need to be registered. So that's the first thing that you need to know. So in South Africa, most of our pesticides have got an L code, right? So it will be L and then there'll be a barcode or a number. So you need to make sure that it's a L registered. So that's pesticides and chemicals that are registered in South Africa. This information is available, like your CropLife, your chemical guys, they do have this available. But chemicals are okay to use. I'm not saying they're great, but they are okay to use, but it also depends on how you use it. So usually you must read your label, so you need to make sure that you are using the correct dosage, because you can overdose and then that happens. You can kill your not only your crop, but you can also then decrease your soil fertility. So there are strict instructions how to use your chemicals. It's the same as taking medication. If the doctor says 1 pill 3 times a day, you cannot go and take 2 or 3 because you're going to overdose. So it's the same principle when using chemicals. So chemicals are not necessarily bad, it's how much you use of it. And then Sia, sorry, Dawn, what was the other thing that you asked me to comment on?
My previous questions were specifically around the financial implications of doing crop rotation. I just wanted to get your take on that, just from an agronomist perspective and also someone that's been practicing in the industry. And I think the one question was just around youth placement and opportunities for young people that you can also just touch on. Thanks.
Well, like I did mention earlier on, maybe the person was not in the live by then, but I did say that when you don't practice crop rotation, your chemical bill, your fertilizer bill is higher, because now pests are thriving, weeds are thriving, and with fertilizer, you now have to fertilize more because you want to increase your soil health. So crop rotation then benefits you in the sense that you are not only planting one type of crop, you also enter the market with multiple crops, So as Sia says, when other people don't have beans, for example, you then have it and you get a better price on the market. So it helps in a sense that you get multiple streams of income from your one crop, from your one plot, sorry. So if, for example, your tomatoes aren't doing great, but peppers are doing great, you are lucky enough to have both because they are part of your crop rotation system. So you're able to monetize in that way, and then you're also able to then reduce your fertilizer usage, and you are able to, so we're not saying that you're not going to use fertilizer, but if you compare your crop rotation versus your monocropping, which is planting one crop the whole time, you will then see the financial differences. So I just think that's then where it is beneficial. And then with regards to youth volunteering and things like that, I at the moment am not taking in any youth, but I do know so many farmers. I mean, I've got a network of farmers that are always happy and excited to take in volunteers and people who are willing to learn, So, I mean, we're in a nice industry where you are able to allow people onto your land and they're able to work. At least with vegetable production, we're not as strict as your piggeries and your poultry, where you just can't have anybody coming to your land. So at least with vegetable production, we are more open to having people over on the farm.
Biosecurity when it comes to livestock production is really strict. So that can never be overlooked. I'm sure all the livestock farmers in this session is saying amen. There's just a question. Yeah, for sure. Go ahead, Sia.
On the use of synthetic fertilizers and others, for the small scale farmer, just use YouTube. You'll get so many other alternatives of using even the weeds to make a pesticide out of it. So just not constrain yourself on learning through the formal platforms. You can even go to YouTube. There are also academia. There's so many platforms whereby you can get like tricks on doing so many things when it comes to farming. As I said, I'm a YouTube farmer. With my agronomist, I'm a YouTube farmer, so you can learn a lot also from YouTube.
I'm on YouTube as well, so.
Sweet, then you can learn from YouTube. And also when it comes to the youth, currently I'm also using youth which work on my sites. Currently I'm using a platform called SAYM. It's South African Youth Movement. You can visit their sites and send them your proposal on whatever you want. They help with that. They even pay them stipends. They don't just volunteer. They get paid while they work for you. You get free labor, you transfer the skill, the work is done. So it's
I
beneficial
love
for both.
that. You maybe just comment in there, just the platform, so people can kind of use it as reference. And I'll
Okay.
also get it from you to share as well, so people can get in contact with me for more information. But if you just posted here, I'm sure, I think it was Sims who was asking. Another question also here, I think this one is more towards you, Sia. Tembani asking, where can I go training for tunnel farming? So maybe you can just YouTube is the first.
Honestly, honestly, for me, it's important to have a mentor. That's the basics. You need to have someone who's been through it, Lerato, who's been
Yeah.
through it, so that you absorb as much information as you can. And also YouTube. At least someone who's your mentor will channel you on where to get the information or how to do the things. So it's critical to get a mentor, and then on your own, be enthusiastic to just learn on your own.
That's true. I mean, you'll only go as far as you allow yourself to go. So your growth is dependent on, how hard you push yourself and who you choose to
Who you
network with and
associate yourself
collaborate with. Yeah. So Tembani is also just saying, Tembani is saying, I'm interested in tunnel farming. Where can I go for training?
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of institutes, but maybe you can maybe connect with Sia. My suggestion is follow everybody on this live. This is definitely, our aim with these sessions. We come here together and grow our networks, grow our skills, grow our understanding of the industry. That's what this specific session is aimed for. Um, Also, who's Larry?
Again,
Hi, Larry. Is one of you Larry?
I'm Larry. It's a private name, and I don't know why it's been put on this live, but nonetheless, hi Tebogo.
maybe there's a history behind it.
Am I exposing you? Are you?
Yeah, yeah.
Sia, I think Tembani is asking if you can be her mentor. And then
Not,
another question. Yeah, you don't mind? Great. Okay.
not
AFP Agri is saying, wondering if the crop rotation can help with weeds, with a little face there. Any comments on that?
So I did mention that earlier on, that it does help with weeds and with your pests. So yeah, it does help with that. You must remember, weeds, they're just as opportunistic as pests. So the more you plant the same thing, it will grow. And the thing with weeds, they grow faster than the crop. So you will find that once they've grown, they then overpower the crop. So they grow above the crop. Your crop doesn't get any sunlight, and then you end up losing that crop. So crop rotation does then help with that. And then de-weeding as well. That's a good way to get rid of weeds.
And also the spacing when it comes to whatever you're farming. For example, for cabbages, if you spread out your cabbages too far apart, you get the weeds. But if you use maybe, let's say, 40 centimeters in between or 60 centimeters, when they grow, they'll just be cluttered together. So there's no room for weeds to grow. So just be innovative when it comes to it.
Yeah, and also no farmer does it in the same way. I mean, what works for your farm, Sia, won't work for Lerato's farm. So that's always something to keep in mind. I think it's about trial and error. You try something, it doesn't work, you change it, you adapt, you change it. That's just the order of the day when it comes to agriculture. Sims is also just asking, which vegetable farmer can you guys suggest? Are you asking to be connected to a vegetable farmer? Because I think both of these beautiful people on this session are vegetable producers, so you can reach out to them. But I think there's so many. Go to Food from Zanzi, guys. There's so many people to contact, so many people to reach out to. It also depends on where you're based. And then you can maybe go and do a farm visit and all of that. Okay, we're almost at the end of the session. I don't know if you guys just want to talk about your, personal success when it comes to, using crop rotation on your farms. And then I briefly want to talk about some of the stuff we spoke about in the beginning, like Lerato's family farming dynamics. And then also just how you kind of win by studying one thing and then moving over to agriculture would also be cool to kind of touch on. But firstly, just success stories from both of your sides, how it's really worked for you in terms of your farming practice. I'm going to start with you, Sia.
Based on crop rotation, I've already mentioned mine. It was discovered when I started planting beans. I think that was my eye opener. That's where everything started for me. That's when I started to focus on crop rotation. Yeah, I think that's where I opened another market that I never thought of even tapping into. So it helped me to see other markets other than what I was used to,
Yeah,
which
thanks.
is
And then for you, Lerato?
Because we are lettuce and herbs farmers, and especially because we were in the west end of Gauteng, growing crops in winter, I mean, we would get temperatures of -5, -7. And what we then found that from May to September, we wouldn't plant anything, but what we then would plant would be a crop mix, right? So what we would do, we would plant your oats, your legumes. So we would have a mixture of crops that we would plant, but then those were going to be it was going to be worked back into the soil. So that's then what you call your green manure. So we would just basically leave the land fallow for about 4 to 5 months and then work the crop in that was there. But then we then found that that was not sustainable, because now for 4 or 5 months of the year, you're not making any money. And then that's how we then got into your vegetable production. So we would then do your brassicas, because our crops, none of them are brassicas. So we then started looking at your cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli. We then got into the crop rotation of using your green beans as well, which is then, as we said, is beneficial to the to the soil, because that's then a nitrogen fertilizer. And we then found that then helped. And the nice thing is that these crops were crops that were able to withstand temperatures of almost -10. So even when we did have frost, we did not lose any crops. So that was then one nice thing that we then got to discover and incorporate. And then that then meant that we were in production for the whole year.
Thank you so much for just sharing your insights with me this evening. A shout out coming from Nkosi 633 saying kudos to young people being farmers. Yes, thank you. We accept.
Come on.
I honestly, for me, when I say farmers are my celebrities, I mean it. When I see you guys, I'm like, oh my word, this is Lerato. I'm sure when I see Siawanda, I'll be like, hey, I'll take a selfie. You should see me. Lerato, you know me. I'm always like, come, let's take a selfie together.
I've seen your pictures. I've seen your pictures on Lerato's page. I could see the excitement.
Yeah.
Yeah, you stalking me.
I'm talking to everyone.
We were stalking you. Okay, maybe just before we wrap up, we have about 5 minutes. I just want to talk briefly. I love that, as farmers, we're so different and we're so diverse in how we operate, what we do. Please post your addresses so we can follow you both. Cool. Guys, please post your pages so they can follow you. Keep on keeping on, guys. Tao, thank you. Just Lerato, just your family farming dynamics, it's so cool to kind of be a full farming family, but what are the dynamics and how do you guys kind of do it?
John, so it's very important to first establish personalities. I think that's very important. Socializing with your family and then working with them, you get to realize that this is a different person. The way they work and the way they socialize is not the same person. So I think we, as a family, we work on each other's strengths. So that's where we then benefit from. So, I mean, I am the one who then went to school. My dad has got practical knowledge. My sister and my mom, they're very strategic thinkers. So we then are able to work together in that sense where you plant, you give advice, you plan for this, you plan for that. And once you've discovered that you guys are able to work well together, we need to understand that not everybody can be Beyonce in the family. I'm Beyonce and the rest of them are the rest of Destiny's Child. So basically what you understand that as a family, it's important. Yeah. So you, and then you also need to understand, you need to separate the business from personal life. So if we fought at work, you can't bring the fight to the dinner table. It's very important. And it took us a very long time to get there, because now I'm a person that gets touched and then I'm angry until tomorrow, but then you need to understand that was it was not an attack on you, but it was us trying to progress as a business, so you need to understand that there will be difficult conversations, and people, you do get upset, you're only human, but then you need to understand that it's not an attack on your character, it's just that we're trying to get this thing done, so it takes a long time to understand that, but once you do, then you can work very well together.
I think it's important to kind of understand, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, how do I best contribute to building this business? Because Sia, you probably, are you working solo? Do you have partners in your business? You've been at it since 2017, so you've also come a long way. Maybe you could just comment about, just more on your journey and how it changed over the years.
I started with a friend way back in 2017. We were both working. I was working in the finance sector. He was working at the public sector. So we resigned at the same time, took our provident fund, invested in a piece of land that was like 10 hectares, fenced it, irrigation system and all of that. Worked there for like 2 years or so, but that didn't work out because of personal differences and family and everything. So I had to move back to Bisho. That's where I started working alone, starting to strategize. One thing I always say to everyone who wants to start or who's starting, you can start small, build from what you have, and no matter what constraint you have, there's always a solution. For example, for me, when I came back home, I came back without even having land to plant on, to just stressed, not knowing what to do. But I started to have ideas to approach these public places which have land, water, and security. That's where I started. I only started with a fork spade, rake, and a spade. That's all I had.
What?
And
Say that again.
I started with a spade, rake, and fork spade. I worked on I started working on a 20 by 20. I planted spinach there. That's where I started when I came back. So start small. It's easy to grow. Just have passion for it. Seek out the right people. As I said, mentors are crucial. Just associate yourself with the people that you want to become. That's all. And then the information is just gonna come to you.
No, for sure. That's amazing. I don't remember. I know we featured you on Food from Zanzibar, but that part of the story, I don't remember that part. But it's really, Tao was saying inspirational. I agree. So inspirational. Like how? And then
It's
also
all
just,
up in here.
yeah. No, I believe you. Jim, my Bota saying brilliant, blessings to the youth. I think that's your family. The Botas are in the house.
Yeah, that's my judge.
Hello, Mr. Bota. So great to have you here in the station. Your dad's on Instagram. I'm so impressed.
Hey, Don, nice.
Someone influenced him.
That's true. Okay, I have one last quirky question for my guest. I think I want to try and make it more fun towards the end. I did not give this question to them beforehand, guys, so just know they're also hearing it for the first time. Okay, so if you could choose, or if you would describe your character, do you think you're a hunter or a gatherer? Come on.
I'm a hunter, Don.
I'm
not a gatherer. I hunt, yes.
I love it. Tia, are you a hunter or a gatherer?
I think I'm a hybrid, but more on the hunter side.
See,
Just what I'm
the
saying.
question was simple. Are you a hunter or a
I
gatherer?
just want to
Not
be
a hybrid.
safe. But I think I'm more of a no. I'll just say a gatherer. I'll just say a gatherer, not a hunter. I am a hunter though, but yeah, I am a gatherer.
Got it. Got it. No, I love it. Thank you
No,
both for your time.
the nice thing with being a hunter is that you go out and find opportunity. You go and find what you are looking for. So when you're a gatherer, you just put what you have together. No, you must hunt here. You must go and look for what you want.
No,
So we have a hunter through and through.
You must gather while hunting. That's why I said I'm a hybrid.
Okay, he kind of was playing between the two. It's been really fun. I really enjoyed hosting both of you tonight. You've given me energy. You've given me so much energy. I'm looking forward to being here and doing this over and over and over again. I love it so much. Thank you to everyone who joined the live session. Thank you to you two beautiful people. All the best with your respective businesses. Stay connected. I think it's great. I think this is a great opportunity for us all to stay in contact. If whoever said they were going to reach out to these two, please do follow up. Beautiful blessings. Have a great rest of the
Thanks
evening.
for having us,
Bye.
John.